Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. Kinda. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review, kind of, at least part one. Shipment was delayed this week. Of course, there's a giant winter storm that's taking over most of the country, including Texas and Oklahoma. And though we are safe and secure here in my neck of the woods, the shipment is delayed, so I don't know when it's coming in. It could be tomorrow, it could be Thursday, it could be Friday, who knows, because it seems like right now the distribution center is just a block of ice from what I can gather. Anyway, we are going to give you a little bit of a comic book review right now because I have read the DC books and I have read a couple indies through early digital releases. So let's go ahead and start talking about it. No pick of the week yet because I haven't read a lot of them, right? No Image, no Marvel, none of that stuff, right? But, regardless, from DC, we've got Truth and Justice #1. This is a Vixen-centric one-shot story. I believe this is going to be a series of one-shot stories. This one's written by Jeffrey Thorne. This may have been a digital first thing. I'm not completely sure on that. But Vixen fans, rejoice, you got a Vixen book. I thought it was rather dull and boring. I didn't really get into it. I like the character of Vixen. I like the idea of her powers. I like the idea of the totemic nature of her powers, and I like some of the ideas that they use in here, but I just felt like the execution was a bit sloppy, and I'm not very excited now for Jeffrey Thorne to come on to Green Lantern because I didn't really like this one, and I didn't really like his Future State John Stewart book either, so I don't know. This one wasn't quite for me. I know there are probably some hardcore Vixen fans out there, and you don't see a lot of her, so at least she's here, so I guess that's cool. Truth and Justice #1 from DC Comics. Also, Future State. A lot of these wrapping up, of course. This is the last issue of Future State Shazam. This may have been, along with Flash, to me, the weakest, by far, of all the Future State books. I was never into this book. You get the idea in the first one that, Billy and Shazam have been split. They're no longer, I don't know, something weird, right? Well, they try to explain it here in issue #2. It ties in a little bit with some of the Teen Titans and some of the Flash stuff, but none of that stuff's really excited me in Future State. So I thought that the ending of this Shazam Future State was just kind of lackluster, just like the entire series. And to be honest, I'm very glad it's over because I just did not dig this. I feel like without Jeff Johns at the helm, does DC know what to do with Shazam? Well, I think there's potential there, right? Especially since there's a sequel coming, but someone's got to do something. And someone's got to do something now. But we'll see. Future State Shazam #2, kind of whack. Future State Nightwing 2. Really like this one. Wasn't so hardcore on the first one. Not digging this whole routine that DC has now of trying to make Dick Grayson this super edgy, hardcore type character. And in this one, they get back more to the Nightwing that I know, the Nightwing that I respect, the Nightwing that I love, right? But this is basically wrapping up this whole idea of in Magistrate Gotham during this Future State timeline, Nightwing's taken over Arkham Asylum and he's running it. Now he's got all the peacemakers and everybody, the magistrates coming after him. And then the next Batman, Jace Fox, shows up and they have a nice little team up there. And I like the switch of the dynamic. That Batman is the one that's not quite seasoned, but Nightwing is. And they have this really cool dynamic. So I actually did like Nightwing Future State #2, and that wraps up that series. We also have Catwoman Future State #2. This one's written by Ron V, so of course, I liked it. What I love about what Ron V is doing with Catwoman, Ron is capable. By the way, Ron will be joining us here on the channel March 4th, 12 p.m. Central Time for a live conversation. Very excited for that. Ron is able to tell so many stories with a lot of deep resonating nuance and drama and just subtext and just character work, right? And he's able to do that in Catwoman, but he's able to kind of have this gloss and polish around it. Every single Catwoman story of his has been a typical heist story, right? But with a little bit of a twist, with his own take, his own twist on it, right? And that's exactly what this is. This is basically the great train robbery, but of course the treasure that they're trying to get out of the train is Bruce Wayne. And one of the cool things about this issue, as well as some of the other Magistrate Gotham Future State books, is that you can kind of start piecing together where they fall in order, and then you can just sit down and read the Magistrate Future State saga. The Future State Saga of the Magistrate, something like that. We can make it rhyme a little bit better. But Catwoman Future State #2 was a great finale. Really liked this. And between Robbie's work here and Tom King's work in the Batman Catwoman book, which we'll be talking about in a second, I am really loving the Cat-Bat thing, to be honest with you. But anyway, Robbie and company did a hell of a job with the Catwoman Future State. Then we have Future State, The Next Batman #4. This is the final issue. Now this all said and done, I really like the character of the next Batman. I really like Jace Fox. We all thought it would be Luke, but it's actually Tim/Jace Fox. And I'm on board with that. I really like the character work that writer John Ridley did in this series. I really like him kind of questioning himself, but still being very capable and confident as well. The only problem I've had with this book is that they set up a great vision and purpose, especially artistically, in the first issue with Nick Darrington and Tamara Bonvillain. Since then, it's been Darrington on breakdowns, but it's been Laura Braga on the actual artwork and the coloring by Arif Prianto, and it just doesn't capture the excitement or the feel that I got in the first issue story with the artwork by Nick and Tamara, or with any of the issues of Dark Detective, or even Harley Quinn, or Nightwing, or hell, even Robin Eternal. It doesn't feel as sleek or as cool as it should. Not like that first issue. That first issue was amazing. There were pages in that first issue that I would like to hang on my wall. Right? Of course, I'm just a big Darrington and Bonvillain fan, but the story, pretty solid. Like the way it wraps up. I'm very excited for the next iteration of this series to come out, which is going to be Future State, Next Batman, I think Second Son or something like that. It's a digital first series, but it's going to kind of tell us his journey, who Jace is, and how he decides to become Batman. But overall, it's an okay story, but it just never quite captured me like Dark Detective or some of the others aside from that first issue. This concludes the Batgirls and the Gotham City little backup stories, and didn't like those. Didn't like those at all. But anyway, next Batman #4 out this week. Then we have the Immortal Wonder Woman #2. This is the final issue of this. Artwork's completely done by Jen Bartel, and it is beautiful. I love her clean, precise line work. The delicate coloring that's provided as well. Is she the colorist? Seems like she might be. She is the colorist as well. But anyway, I actually like this one. I wasn't super sold on the first one. The story involves at the end of time in the DC Omniverse or whatever, and Immortal Wonder Woman's one of the only ones there. And in this issue, she finds that she's maybe not the only person there. She has a really great conversation with the personification of vengeance. That's not really a spoiler, but most of you guys know probably exactly what I'm saying. But I really actually like the second issue here. Tells the final fate of Superman, the final fate of Darkseid, the final fate of Wonder Woman, and the final fate of the DC Omniverse. How final? Not super final. I mean, comics are continuing next week. But the Immortal Wonder Woman #2, really liked it over the first issue and excited to kind of read them both together. The Nubia story, though, just like in the first issue, I like the art, I like the idea, but it just doesn't do anything to grab me. I think the execution is just a bit weak in it. So I'm excited to see that they are going to be pumping up Nubia and a bunch of other characters to flesh out Diana's got a great rogues gallery, often misused. They just always use the same few. Cersei, Ares, and now Max Lord, just over and over and over. But it's cool to see her supporting cast get rounded and fleshed out a little bit. It's one of the most amazing things about characters like Peter Parker, Bruce Wayne, even Clark Kent. They got amazing supporting characters around them, and it's definitely something that Wonder Woman has lacked. So I hope that going forward, Cloonan and Conrad, who are going to be the Wonder Woman writers starting in March, I hope that they kind of gel that together. But Immortal Wonder Woman #2, pretty solid. It was all right. Then we got Superman Worlds at War, issue #2. This is one of those big daddies, a $7.99 comic. Is it worth it? No. Because the Midnighter story, the Mr. Miracle story, and the Black Eraser story were all kind of weak. And I didn't really like them. Even the Midnighter story, which I thought had a cool, decent enough setup, and you got Michael Alon Oeming showing up to do the artwork in this chapter, just doesn't really grab me. The Superman story, though, I'm loving it. I loved the first issue's Superman story, and I loved the second issues. I feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson is teaching us right now that he knows, first of all, how to do a Superman story that feels familiar and different at the same time. It also feels like he understands the nature of the character and the importance of the character to other people. So I'm very excited to see what Philip Kennedy Johnson can do going forward with Action Comics, with Superman. Mikhail Hanen's artwork was amazing. It's basically Superman stuck on War World, and it's got a very gladiator type vibe to it, but I love the way it ended. I love how it represents what Superman means, and I love how there's this other story that's going on about these people and what they feel and think about Superman. And this one really stresses the importance of Clark Kent, and that even if Superman and Clark never developed these powers, he would still be a hero, because there's just something about that character. So I think Philip Kennedy Johnson understands the character. I think he's got the look, the voice, and everything right, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. But this book, not worth it, because all of those backup stories are supreme rubbish, in my opinion. However, I really liked this main story. So, there you go. We need a good Superman book. Even if it's Worlds of War, I liked this. We got House of L next, and then Philip Kennedy Johnson, starting in March, is going to be taking over the 2 flagship books. Then we have Batman, Catwoman, issue number 3, once again themed around Christmas. Doing 3 different timelines mixed together. You get the introduction of this version of the Huntress, Batman and Catwoman's daughter. She looks straight up like she's not wearing pants. I'm not even kidding. She looks like she's not wearing pants. Can you see that? You can see the belly button. She looks like she's not wearing pants. Anyway, really liking this one. Clayman, pretty solid artist, and I'm liking the artwork here. He does some pretty solid work here. I like what Tom King's exploring here, with not just the relationship of Batman and Catwoman, but how the Joker gets thrown into that. And then Phantasm. So you got Phantasm action, you got Joker action, you got Batman and Catwoman in the past, in the present, if you want to call it the present, and in the future, what's going to happen. And I really like the revelations, really like the twists and turns, really like the pacing, really like just the sense, the thematic sense that this gives you. I like how it's tied together with these different Christmas songs. This one is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. It's a little bit reminiscent of the Mask of the Phantasm story, but with its own twist to it, its own style as well, and definitely doing some great work with the character of Selina Kyle. I don't know if she's ever been in better hands between Ron V and Clayman and Tom King on this series in particular, because I wasn't always sold on Tom King's characterization of Selina in the regular Batman book, but I'm loving it here. Loving it. And it's also a mystery. What else did I read? I read a new one from Vault Comics that debuts today. It's called, or this week, it's called Hollow Heart. It's written by Paul Allure, with artwork by Paul Tucker. Yeah, it's Tucker. It almost looks like Turner when I wrote it down. Hollow Heart was this really surreal and tonally resonating comic book. It's about this person who used to be a real person. Now it's just like this collection of organs and parts in this like biomechanical suit, right? And he's like being kept prisoner or something, maybe for everybody's safety, maybe for his, and he's tethered to this place, and he winds up kind of developing this relationship with this guard or this scientist at this place or whatever. But let me tell you something. It seems like a simple concept, but yo, this book was amazing. The artwork, the story, the pacing. Oh my goodness, this book was so haunting. It was so haunting, and it had such a tone about it that was melancholy, bittersweet, hopeful, full of despair. It just, such a great tone was struck by this book. The artwork is effective as hell. You basically have this entity who lives in this biosuit, and really his face just looks like this red skull type thing, but the artist, Tucker's able to emote so much from just a few bits of splash of color or black or lines, right? Like, absolutely amazing. This is in the running for pick of the week. Out of everything I read that I'm covering today, that would be the pick of the week. Hollow Heart, a brand new #1 from Vault Comics. It's a horror story. It's a little sci-fi. It's very cerebral. It's very surreal, but it's got this melancholy, bittersweet tone that just resonates and permeates through the book, and it's so delicately done. It's quite masterful, to be honest. I also read a couple from Scout. I read Black Cotton, #1. It was all right. It's a very kind of simple story, but it's kind of taking the idea, of like, let's take like the Black Lives Matter movement, which, Black lives do matter. They just do. But like, take the idea of that and the world that we're living in and all this racial tension and flip it. What if the minority were white people? So it starts off with a black cop in a majority black community. That's the world. They're flipping the script there. And he winds up accidentally kind of shooting and killing a white woman. And it's kind of telling a very important story from a different perspective, but I feel like at times it gets a bit clunky. The artwork is black and white. It's all right. It's not going to impress too many people. It's kind of got a little bit of a Walking Dead type vibe, a little Charlie Adler-like, but not completely like as detailed or as refined. It's an okay book, but it kind of just felt like a story we've seen many times with just the races flipped, and maybe as the series progresses, we'll see more of an obvious reason for this switch. But I get what they're trying to do, and I do applaud it and appreciate it, but I just thought the execution was okay. Didn't quite get there for me. Then Black Friday, it's a new one from Scout Comics. Same thing here. I feel like the ideas, the execution though, the ideas were great. The execution though, just not quite there. Black Friday is about this coalesced grief and madness and despair from Black Friday, right? The day after Thanksgiving. It's about this retail shop. They're trying to clean up after Black Friday. There's a smear of blood around, and then there's basically this entity has formed that is, according to the solicitations, like a coalescing of all of the pain and bitterness and greed and just all these negative emotions that get riled up at Black Friday when people are literally trampled to death just to get the new phone or the new Tickle Me Elmo or whatever. That dated me, right? Tickle Me Elmo. Anyway, it was all right. So Black Cotton and Black Friday, both of them some really solid ideas, but just feel like it didn't quite execute to its fullest potential. The artwork also in Black Friday, I liked it, but a lot of people probably won't. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit weird. I think that's intentionally so, and I actually think it does help accentuate the tone and mood of the story. So that's what I've read so far. We're hoping to get the shipment as soon as we can, and we can throw out another video with Marvel, with Image, with Boom, with some more Vault. We got some exciting things out this week. Picture of Everything Else #2. Come on, y'all. I'm waiting for my comics. I hate it. Don't you hate it when you can't get your comics? Anyway, that's what I've read. That's what I thought about them. So let me know. What are you reading? Are you excited? Have you gotten comics this week? Are you missing out because of the winter storms? Who knows? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.